I'm a photographer. I travel for work, mostly alone. Not portraits or weddings, nothing like that. I take photos of abandoned places, old motels, boarded-up diners, shuttered schools, and faded signs way out in the middle of nowhere. There's something about the silence of forgotten places that pulls me in. I sell the good photos to magazines or websites. Sometimes a documentary crew will ask me for background shots. It's not a glamorous job, but it keeps me going. And truth be told, I've always liked being on the road. A few months ago, I was headed to a small town I'd circled on my map. It was supposed to have a half-empty strip of businesses. Diners with broken windows, gas stations that hadn't been open in decades, cracked asphalt lots with weeds poking through. It sounded like the perfect place to shoot, and it was. I got there right around golden hour, when the sun's low and warm, casting long shadows. Everything looked perfect. I parked in front of what used to be a hardware store, now just an empty frame of a building. The roof had collapsed and the old open sign hung sideways, barely clinging to the front window. I spent about an hour walking up and down the strip, snapping pictures from different angles. Some of the places looked like people had left in a hurry. Others had clearly been sitting empty for decades. But there was one building that gave me pause. A small diner at the end of the road. The sign above it didn't have a name, just a faded picture of a coffee cup, and the word "Eats," barely visible under years of sun damage. The front door was missing entirely, just an open frame, like a mouth waiting for something to walk in. I don't know why, but I felt pulled toward it. I stepped inside with my camera. Right away the air changed. It was dry, but it had a strange heaviness to it. A smell I couldn't quite place. Dust, rust, and something older. Not rotten, just still. The booths were covered in leaves and dirt. Torn menus lay scattered across the floor. A napkin dispenser had been knocked off the counter and lay sideways, like someone had left in a hurry and never came back. Everything was quiet. I lowered my camera and moved in slowly, careful not to make too much noise. My boots crunched on broken tiles. I snapped a few pictures of the booths, the serving window to the kitchen, and an old cash register that still sat on the counter with the drawer hanging open. Then I heard something. It was faint, almost too quiet to notice, but it was there. At first I thought it was the wind, but it wasn't. The sound was coming from the back of the diner. It was like metal dragging lightly across tile, slow, uneven. I looked toward the hallway, where the restrooms and kitchen were. I didn't move at first, I just listened. Then the sound stopped. I told myself it was just the building settling. Old buildings make noise. I've been in dozens of them. I tried not to let it get to me. But when I raised my camera again to snap another shot of the counter, I froze. The napkin dispenser. It wasn't lying sideways anymore. It was standing upright, perfectly placed, like nothing had ever disturbed it. I stared at it. I knew I hadn't imagined it being knocked over. I even had a photo. I checked my camera and scrolled back. There it was, clear as day. The dispenser on its side. Now it wasn't. I felt this chill creep into my chest. I wasn't alone. I called out, soft but clear. "Hello?" No answer. I should have left right then and there, but I wasn't exactly scared at that point. More confused than anything. I figured maybe someone else was in there. A local kid maybe, or someone just passing through like me. So I walked toward the back hallway. There were 3 doors. Restroom on the right, storage closet on the left, kitchen straight ahead. The kitchen door was cracked open. I nudged it gently with my foot and peeked inside. It was dark. My camera didn't have a light, so I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. Dust floated in the beam and I could see shelves and old metal cookware covered in rust. Then I saw something on the prep table, a single plate, and on that plate, a sandwich, or something that looked like one. The bread looked dark, like it had been sitting there for years, but it was whole, intact, not covered in dust, not collapsed from time. I stepped a little closer. The bread didn't look old at all. It looked fresh. That's when I started to feel really cold. The kind of cold that doesn't come from the weather, but from somewhere deeper. My hands were shaking. My flashlight flickered, just once, then came back. And then I heard breathing, not mine. It was soft, slow, shallow, coming from the left side of the room. I turned, phone light shaking with my hand. Nothing, just shelves and dust. The breathing stopped. I didn't move. I barely even breathed. My heart felt like it was pounding loud enough to echo. Then I heard something that still gives me chills when I think about it. Not words, just a low whisper. A sound like someone pulling in the air through their teeth. I didn't wait. I turned and ran. I didn't look behind me. I didn't stop to check the hallway. I just ran through the front of the diner, straight back to my car. I slammed the door, locked it, and started the engine with trembling hands. I didn't stop driving until the diner was just a distant blur in my mirror. I never uploaded the photos from that day. To be honest, I'm not even sure what happened to that memory card. I think I tossed it without really thinking. But every now and then, when I wake up late at night, I think I hear that dragging sound again, like metal across tile. And I still think about that sandwich. Bread that looked untouched by time, like someone was waiting for it to be picked up. And maybe I wasn't supposed to see it. It was supposed to be a reset. 3 whole days in the woods, no phone, no computer, no traffic, just fresh air and time with the Lord. That was the plan. I'd been worn out for a while, stretched thin at work, constantly staring at screens, running on fumes. I needed quiet, real quiet, the kind you can only find in the middle of nowhere. So I marked some time off, packed my gear, and headed out to this remote patch of public land I'd pinned on a map a few months earlier. No marked trails, no campsites, just open forest. I left early in the morning. The drive took hours, but with every passing mile, the weight on my shoulders got lighter. The roads narrowed into gravel, then dirt, winding deep into the forest. Eventually, I turned off onto an old logging path, barely wide enough for my car. I never saw another vehicle the whole time. By late afternoon, I found a clearing tucked just off the path. It was perfect, flat, surrounded by trees, quiet as could be. I parked under some tall pines and set up camp. My tent went up easy. The air was crisp, and the sky was glowing with the last golden hour of light. That first night was peaceful. I built a little fire, heated up some canned chili, and just sat there in my camp chair, boots off, warming my feet near the flames. I watched the stars come out, brighter than I'd seen in years, and thanked God for the quiet, for the stillness, for a break. I slept deep that night, the kind of sleep you only get when your body finally lets go of the stress you've been carrying without realizing it. The next morning, I woke to birdsong and sunlight peeking through the tent walls. I made coffee on my little camp stove and ate a granola bar while watching a squirrel wrestle with a pine cone near a fallen log. The whole morning passed slowly. I wandered for a bit, followed a dry creek bed, and tied some ribbon to branches so I wouldn't lose my way. In the afternoon, I wrote in my notebook, just thoughts, prayers, ideas that had been pushed to the back of my mind. I even sang a little out loud, which I never do around people. Out there, I didn't care. But that evening, something changed. It's hard to explain. It wasn't something I saw, more like something I didn't hear. The breeze died down completely, and the woods got still. Not calm still, hollow still, like the space around me was waiting for something. I was sitting near the fire again, stirring the coals, when I realized I kept turning around. Every little snap or shuffle had me looking over my shoulder. It was like the forest had lost its rhythm. The crickets were still chirping, but even they sounded too loud, too spaced out. I tried to brush it off, told myself it was just my brain adjusting. After all, when you come from the city, real silence can feel unnatural. But this wasn't just silence. It was like something was watching the silence. I stayed up later than I planned, trying to shake the feeling. Eventually, I put the fire out, crawled into my sleeping bag, and zipped the tent up tight. That's when things got strange. At first, I just heard the usual stuff. Branches creaking, the last crackles of the fire cooling down. But after a while, the noises didn't fade like they should have. They were circling. Not fast, not loud, just circling, like someone walking softly around the edge of the tent, leaves rustling, one slow step at a time. I sat up and quietly grabbed the hatchet I kept next to my pack. My hands were sweating even though it had gotten cold. Then came something I still don't have words for. A whisper. Faint, barely there, but close, right outside the tent. It wasn't wind. I've camped enough to know the difference. This was low, like someone talking under their breath. I held still and listened, praying it was just my nerves. Then I heard it again, louder this time. It almost sounded like someone saying my name, but not quite, like they were mispronouncing it, testing it. I unzipped the tent, just an inch to peek out, pitch dark. The fire had burned out completely. The trees looked like shadows stacked on shadows. My eyes scanned the clearing, but there was nothing. No movement, no figures, just the forest. Then the whisper came again, from the other side of the tent. I turned fast, but of course all I saw was fabric. My heart was thudding so loud I could barely hear anything else. I zipped the tent back up, backed into the corner, clutching the hatchet and praying under my breath. Lord, please, keep me safe out here. The whispering didn't stop. It got thicker somehow, like it wasn't sound anymore, it was pressure, like it was pressing in from all sides. I put my hands over my ears. Didn't help. I closed my eyes and just focused on my breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth, again and again. Eventually it faded. I don't know when exactly, but it was like a weight being lifted off the tent. I stayed awake the rest of the night. Didn't even lie down. I just sat there, holding that hatchet, eyes wide open, whispering verses I could remember from Psalms. When the first light of morning came through the trees, I practically tore the tent open and stepped out into the cold. The stillness was gone. The forest felt normal again, a little breezy, birds starting to wake. I packed everything as fast as I could. Didn't eat, didn't make coffee. I shoved everything in the trunk, kicked dirt over the fire ring, and got out of there. Even the walk back to the car felt strange. At one point, I swore I heard footsteps behind me. I turned fast, expecting someone. Nothing, just trees. I didn't breathe easy again until I saw pavement. I never told many people about that night. Not because I thought they'd laugh, but because I didn't know what to say. I still don't. Whatever was out there, it didn't try to hurt me, at least not in the usual sense, but it wanted something. Attention maybe, or fear. And what gets me the most, I gave it. I like taking long drives at night. It helps clear my head. I throw on some music, roll my window down a little, and just drive. No destination, just the open road, headlights shining on the pavement, empty highways stretching out forever. Last weekend, I was doing exactly that. Driving down some back roads about 30 miles outside the city. It was after 1 a.m., and I hadn't seen a single car in over an hour. I was about to turn around and head home when I saw something weird up ahead. There was this soft, flickering orange-yellow glow on the side of the road. At first, I thought maybe it was a campfire or someone grilling, but as I got closer, I realized it was coming from a building, a diner, out here in the middle of nowhere. I slowed down. The place looked ancient, an old metal and glass box with a faded neon sign on top that read, Frank's Grill. Half the letters were burned out. The gravel parking lot was empty. No movement anywhere, but the lights inside were definitely on. I don't know why, but I pulled in. Maybe curiosity? Maybe I just needed coffee. I parked and killed the engine. Outside was dead quiet. No bugs, no wind. Just this heavy, pressing kind of silence. I walked up to the door and pushed it open. A little bell jingled above my head. Inside, the diner was warm and softly lit, but totally empty. Every booth looked spotless. Napkin holders shining under the hanging lights. The red vinyl seats looked almost brand new, even though the place obviously hadn't been fixed up in years. There was a long counter with a pie display case, but no one behind it. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I waited a minute and then sat down in a booth by the window. There was a menu already on the table. No prices, just words. Coffee, burger, fries, apple pie, milkshake. Something felt off about it, but I was already there, and honestly, I was hungry. Just as I was about to get up and leave, a man appeared behind the counter. I didn't hear him come in. He just was there. He wore a white apron and a paper hat, like a cook from a 1950s movie, but his face was hard to make out, like the light didn't hit it right. He didn't say a word, just nodded. like he was waiting for me to order. I cleared my throat. "Can I get a coffee?" He turned and went to the back without a word. I sat there, starting to feel uneasy. The air smelled weird. Not bad exactly, just wrong, like cleaning supplies mixed with something metallic. A minute later, he came back and placed a white mug in front of me. Steam was curling up from the coffee, but it didn't smell like anything. No smell at all. I looked up to thank him, but he was already gone. I stared at the coffee for a while, but didn't drink it. Something about the whole place felt staged, like a movie set. I stood up, ready to leave, when the lights flickered. Once, twice, then everything went dark. Total blackout. I froze, heart pounding, ears straining for any sound. That's when I heard it. A low humming. Distant at first, like machinery powering up somewhere behind the walls. It got louder, shaking the floor beneath me. Then the lights snapped back on. But the diner wasn't the same anymore. The booths were gone. The counter was gone. The windows were bricked up from the inside. I spun around, heart thumping, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. The floor was covered in dirt. The ceiling sagged. The air smelled like mold and rust. This wasn't the same building I'd walked into a few minutes ago. I stumbled toward where the front door should have been, but it was just a wall now. Solid wood with no knob, no window. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, measured, coming from the back. I ran. I didn't know where to go. I just needed to move. I bolted down a narrow hallway that hadn't been there before, walls closing in around me. The floor creaked with every step, and the humming followed me, growing louder, like it was right behind me. I turned a corner and shoved open a door without thinking. Inside was a room, empty except for one thing. A table, and on the table, a plate, with a burger sitting perfectly in the center. No dust, no smell. Just a fresh, untouched burger. Steam still rising off it. And standing behind it, a man. Same paper hat, same apron. But this time he was smiling, and his face, finally visible, was wrong. Too smooth, too perfect, like it had been sculpted from wax. He didn't move, he didn't speak. I backed out slowly, trying not to make a sound. Then the humming turned into whispers. Thousands of voices all at once, some screaming, some crying, some laughing. I ran again. I don't remember how I got out. One second I was in that room, and the next I was outside, gasping for air, hands on my knees, gravel digging into my palms. The diner was dark again, dead. The neon sign flickered once, then went out for good. I jumped in my car and peeled out of there as fast as I could. I've driven past that stretch of road a dozen times since then. There's nothing there, just trees, dirt. No diner, no lights, no sign of Frank's Grill ever existing. But sometimes, when I'm driving late at night, I swear I smell that same metallic scent in the air. And for just a second, I think I see a soft orange glow in my rearview mirror. I don't stop anymore.